Good day, Writing 100 students. This is your Writing 100 Section 5 class with me, Miss Zim. Our classes starting this week will primarily be online, and my method of going online is to share with you videos that I will record like this, and with those videos, I will attach tasks that are for grades and tasks that are not for grades. I will, of course, inform you. All of that information is also available on the Moodle page that includes the PowerPoint slides, the video link, as well as the worksheets and material for this lesson. So I want to start off by first sharing with you the Moodle page so that everybody is on the same page. I'm going to share my screen with you right now. Right? Right, so that is my screen of the PowerPoint slides that I have uploaded onto Moodle. So go to week 4 online APA versus Vancouver style methods. You will see what the objectives are for this class for this week. I can also help you navigate that. Let me just stop sharing so that I make sure that you 100% know where you need to go. So just give me 1 second. I will share here. So I just want to let you know, this is where your Moodle page is. Everybody should be here. Week 4, this is where we are, as you can see. So for March 2, we have APA versus Vancouver. I'm asking you to watch the video, and I will share the link with you and go over the PowerPoint slides. Then you need to complete the Google form. This is for grades. The deadline is March 3rd at 10 p.m. Okay, 10 p.m. at night. Then I will shut down the Google form submission. Then you need to complete a worksheet. That worksheet you do not need to submit to me. This worksheet is a self-study worksheet. And that is what you need to do for tomorrow. The materials can be found under here, which says class material. And this is where you will find the Google form. You click on it. Let me just show you. When you click on it, it will pop up like this. You will realize that the form is self-paced. So you need to watch the video, go through the slides, and answer the questions as you go. All right. And at the end, you click submit, and your answers will be submitted to me. Okay. If you are not sure, you are more than welcome to reach out to me via email. So let us start with the lesson for today. I'm going to share my PowerPoint slides with you. There you go. All right. So what we're doing this week is we're looking at what is citation, first of all. And once we understand that, we're going to look at the difference between APA style versus Vancouver style citation. All right. So this is the movement of our class for today. So let's start off with what is citation. You have heard me say this quite a few times in class, and that there's a great importance of you learning this because you're going to be using this in all of your classes, specifically English 101, 203. As you're progressing in your academic career, your faculty will ask you to cite information, okay? So let's look at what is citation. So citation is basically we are showing information or ideas in our writing. And we try to give credit to the original author and allow other readers to find the sources, okay? So when we are using somebody's idea or somebody's research to support our idea, we need to cite that information. We need to give credit to the author. Why do we use it? Because we want to avoid plagiarism. That's why we need to avoid plagiarism. That's the first of all, because you cannot use somebody's work without giving them credit. That is almost like theft, okay? And that's a huge crime. In universities, you can actually get expelled and get a behavioral or academic strike. And also we use citation to support our arguments with evidence. So when we have an opinion and want to argue something, we want to show people that we have done the research for our argument, that there is some solid data to support our claim. So that's why we use research. And we build credibility in our academic writing. So we know that you're not just some person who's sharing their opinion. No, you are a person who's sharing their opinion that is backed up by facts. All right. So that is what citation is and why we use it. Now, in citation, there are always two parts. One part is in-text citation, which is in the text. That means in the paragraph, you have to cite. And we did this practice in class last week. Then we also have a second part. Whatever you text in, whatever you cite in the text, you need to include that in a reference list. And the reference list is a full detail of all of the sources. That means the authors or the research that you've used. And that comes at the end of your paper. All right. Remember when you did the practice paragraph in the class, you had to answer a question. When we did the Peel method, you did an in-text citation. And at the end, you needed to have a reference list of the source that you were using. So always remember that. With citation, there are always two parts, in-text citation and reference list, right? Now, when it comes to citation, there are three ways that we can cite information. There are three good ways, and I encourage you to use all of them, all right? The first one is quote. That means you are using the direct exact words of the source. You put them in quotation marks, okay? And then you add them into your text that supports your claim, that supports your argument. When do we use quotes? When the exact words are so important and so powerful that it's better to leave them as such and you don't want to paraphrase them. Also remember, when we use quotation, we do not quote chunks of information. We've tried to limit it to 1 to 2 sentences, okay? Do not go and quote a whole paragraph because now you're almost plagiarizing, all right? You want to use at least 1 to 2 sentences and you put them with quotation marks. The second way of using citation is through paraphrasing. All you do is basically you read the quote and then you put it in your words completely. Okay. And even if it's in your own words, remember the idea is not your own. You're still using somebody else's ideas. Then you put it in your own words and you still in text cite. That is with the parenthesis. And the third way of using citation is a summary. And usually what we do is we look at the main idea of a long text and we give a brief overview over it. And that often happens when you are trying to conclude an argument or when you want to give people a quick overview of the background of your argument or the research that is tied to your claim, okay? So those are the three different ways we can use citation. Quotes, remember 1 to 2 sentences, paraphrasing, using your own words, but still you in text cite, and a summary when you want to give an overview over a longer text. All right. So let's do a quick memory catch. So here we have a student writes, the author argues that sleep is essential for memory. No quotation marks are used, and the student used their own words. What type of source use is this? Obviously, it's a paraphrase. So when you're using information that is not yours, but you're still putting it in your own words, we will call that paraphrasing. It cannot be a direct quote because that needs to be word for word. It cannot be a summary because that means it will have to be a longer piece of writing, all right? And plagiarism, students should always use quotation marks whenever they are directly quoting and in-text citing. So the best answer is a paraphrase, right? So let's move on to the next part. Now, this is the part. Now that we know what citation is and why we use it, we're going to look at the different types of citation because academia is large. You have engineering departments that are much more scientific. Then you have medicine, then you have law, and then you have humanities and languages. And each of these departments have their own special citation. Okay. We are using the APA citation because we work with education and language. So as you see here, it's called the American Psychological Association. So it was established by America, if I'm not mistaken, Chicago. And they are using the citation primarily when it comes to social sciences, psychology, education, and nursing. And just be careful, nursing does fall under this, but doctors, research, medicine, healthcare, that is in the Vancouver, just so that you know, all right? The key features of APA citation, we have practiced this in class. You always have the author's last name, comma, and the year in parentheses or brackets, all right? And the structure we have, as I said before, you need two things with citation. You need an in-text citation, and you need to have it in the reference list, which is what we're going to look at today. So, in-text citation, when we are paraphrasing, remember, when we paraphrase, we use our own words. Okay, so we're looking at in-text, meaning within the work, within the paragraph. All right, so for example, we have a parenthetical citation. Here is an example for you. We have an extract where it says global warming is largely driven by human activities such as deforestation and burning fossil fuels. All right, we know that this has to be a paraphrase because there are no quotation marks. Right, how do we in-text cite? You always need to have the author's last name, comma, then you have the year. Okay, always remember that. This is the easiest way to do it. If you want to mention the author, and we call this a narrative citation, you will say, according to Johnson. Okay, that's one way of saying it. I'm going to type it in here. You can say, according to Johnson. Okay, and then you put the year. All right, that's one way. According to Johnson, human activities like deforestation, blah, 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 etc., full stop. All right, or you can just say, Johnson explains that human activities like deforestation and burning fossil fuels are major contributors to global warming. All right, that is in-text citation. Please look at the two. The one just states it in paraphrasing with the citation at the end. The other one is using it as a narrative. That means you are including the author in your language. Okay, you're not excluding him, you're including him. So Johnson becomes the subject. Johnson explains, or you can say, according to Johnson, human activities, etc., etc. In fact, let me write it better here so that you guys can see the difference, because the language changes a little bit. So when you use according to Johnson, you don't say explains, okay? No, you go straight into according to Johnson, human activities like deforestation and burning fossil fuels are major contributors to global warming. Okay, so those are the two ways that you can make a narrative citation. Please note that the key points is both forms, whether it's parenthetical citation or narrative, are acceptable, but choose one and stay consistent throughout the paper. If you're going to use parenthetical citation at the beginning, continue using it in all parts of your paragraph or your essay, okay? Don't chop and change, because what's going to happen is you're going to forget, and you're going to either forget the date, or you're going to misplace the author's name, okay? That also falls under plagiarism. When you incorrectly cite or when you inconsistently cite, that also falls under plagiarism. So pick a style and stay to that style. If you want to do according to the whole time, then use according to. If you want to say Johnson explains or Mac um, ex, ex, um, demonstrates, for example, you can use that, but be consistent throughout. Again, what do we use? We use the author's last name. The full name probably, I believe, I'll just give an example of what I mean by the author's last name. You can have, for example, let's say the author's name is Eugene Johnson, okay? And he published in 2021. First name is Eugene, last name is Johnson. You use the last name. If you have 3 or more authors, okay, then you say Johnson, let's say 2 authors, you'll say parenthesis, Johnson and Bridge. This is for 2 authors, okay? If you have 3 or more authors, that's going to take up space. And when we have 3 or more authors, we often say Johnson et al. What et al means and all. And this is when you have 3 or more authors. And this is the same for parenthetical citation and the narrative as well. All right, so I hope that clarifies you what the APA citation is when it comes to paraphrasing. Direct quote. Now, the direct quote is not very different. The only difference we have in the direct quote is that we add the page number. Now, page numbers, be careful. Not all journals or websites have page numbers. But if you are using a journal with a page number and you want to use a direct quote, you need to include the page number over here. So you have open quote, deforestation and fossil fuels use are major drivers of global warming, close quote, open parentheses, Johnson, comma, 2021, comma, page, full stop, 34, close parentheses, and full stop again. Okay, that is for a parenthetical citation. Or, like we have done in the previous one, according to Johnson, open parenthesis 2021 states that deforestation, blah, 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 it's still a direct quote, then you have to put in the page number towards the end, all right? So what is the key difference of the paraphrasing? Paraphrasing, you do not need to use a page number, okay? But if you're using direct quote, you need to use a page number. Now, what if your article does not have a page number? It's okay, just put in the year, all right? I hope that is clear. Now that we looked at the direct quote and the paraphrasing, the next part is, which I mentioned before, is that you always need to have a reference list. What you use in the text needs to appear again in your reference page. Where does your reference page come? At the very end of your paper. You even make the heading reference page, and then you list your authors, okay? Now, one of the things when you list your authors, they need to be in alphabetical order. I'm going to add it here because I think I did not. And they'll say, I'll put it here, alphabetical order. All right? They need to appear in alphabetical order. So if your first author's surname is Brown, you have Brown's first, okay? And then the next source might be Michael's. That's the next one. And until the last one, for example, Zimmerman, it will be the last one in your reference list because of the alphabetical order. So how do we do reference list? Very easy. You start with the last name, comma, I'm going to look at here, last name, comma, then only the initial of the first name. So Pointing is the last name, and M. M might be for Michael or Michelle, but you don't write the full name. You just write M, full stop, open parentheses, the date, okay, if the date is available, and the year, close parenthesis, full stop. Then in italics, you have the article's title. Look at how that title is written, okay? It's in italics. It means the letters are slightly leaning over. Then full stop. Then you need to say, where did you get the source? I got it from BBC News, which is a website. And then you put the URL link. That is the link that if I click on it, it needs to take me directly to that source. All right. So again, you have the author's last, first initial. Then you have the year, month, and day. Then you have the article title. Then you have the source. Where did you get it from? Sometimes it's not a newspaper, sometimes it's a journal. Then you have the journal's name, such as the Educational or the Psychology Journal of America. You write that in there. Then you have the URL. All right? Right. Next part that I want to look at. Okay. Now, why and where do we use this now? We will use this in the Peel method. Okay. I hope I'm answering that question that some of you had. What does that mean? When you have the Peel method, remember you have point, which is you are stating the claim. You're stating the claim. It needs to have a topic and a controlling idea. Then after the claim, you have evidence. What is the evidence? That is your in-text citation. That is the source you're going to use to support your argument. Then after that, you explain. Now, explain doesn't mean you repeat the evidence. No, explain means how does the evidence address your claim? How does it expand your claim? And then you link it. You link it back to your point. So let's look at this together as an example. So you're going to have, this is a small paragraph. You start off with a point. Climate change poses a serious threat to global food security. So what is the main idea? Climate change. That's the topic. All right. That is the topic. What about that topic? It is a serious threat to global food security. Just by looking at climate change and food security, I know that my evidence mustn't focus on climate change and illnesses. It mustn't focus on climate change and the level of pollution. No, it needs to only focus on climate change and food security. Okay. So now let's look at the evidence. Let's see if the evidence is addressing that. So according to the World Bank, all right, open parenthesis 2022, close parenthesis, comma, nations that invest more in education see higher productivity and innovation rates. Now, this sounds very odd. How does this actually link? I don't understand how this actually connects to my point. Well, let's look at the explanation. This shows that education equips people with the skills needed for modern industry, leading to a stronger workforce. Think about it. Is it still linking? Okay. Then link. Therefore, improving education should be a top priority for any government aiming for a long-term economic stability. I want you to look at that and determine whether any of this is addressing the topic sentence. Look at your topic sentence. Your topic sentence is talking about climate change posing a serious threat to global food security. Okay, that's your topic, and that's your controlling idea. Now, your evidence is talking about education and higher productivity and innovation. Does not link. I don't see the link. Okay, so I'm thinking, let's look at the explanation. This shows that education equips people with skills needed for modern industry, leading to a stronger workforce. Still does not link, still does not connect. So this would be a horrific and not a well-developed paragraph. What you should have in your evidence is to determine how this evidence supports global food security. So here, I'm going to write a better one. So I'm going to say here, according to the World Bank, okay, nations that are facing severe water shortages due to climate change are seeing a decline in their food production, which has decreased, okay, availability for locals and export and for exports. Now that makes sense. Now I can see how my evidence is tying to my main point. The same thing. Now, what we need to do, so I'm going to do this. I'm going to highlight this. I'm going to highlight this green so that you can see that this green, I'm going to move this screen a little bit to the side. I'm going to highlight it or make it not white, keep it black. I wanted to, or maybe let me make it into a green text or blue text. All right. And that is the correct one. This one is incorrect because it does not link to your main idea and your controlling idea. Okay. Now, the explanation. Again, the explanation does not address the main idea. We need an explanation that is supporting the evidence and linking back to global food security. Okay. So I'm going to come up with something. I'm going to say that apart from nations facing these environmental factors due to climate change, actually, I want to say apart from nations facing a decrease in food production, others are facing scarcity due to the decrease in imports and an increase in expenditure due to scarcity, something like that, okay? Due to food scarcity. If you see my explanation does not repeat my evidence. It expands my evidence, okay? Then, of course, this is a much better one because it's still on topic and it does not repeat. So I'm going to make this, if my laptop could just work with me for a little bit. I'm going to make this into blue. Okay. And I'm going to make this into red so that you can see which one is wrong and which one is incorrect. Right? Okay. And then you have your link. So now your link needs to connect it back to your main point. So in the main point, you can say, thus, some governments who refute the idea of climate change simply need to revisit the current global food availability figures to understand that there is a massive decline in productivity that has never been seen or recorded in history before globally, something like that. Okay, so here I'm again reinforcing my point, but I'm not repeating it and I'm summarizing it. Sorry, I just need to move this over. So I'm going to use this one because that one, again, it's connected to my point, which is my topic sentence. This one is correct. And the other one is incorrect because it's talking about education. It has nothing to do about food security. Okay? All right, there you go. So that is how you will do appeal method. I hope that was very clear for you. Okay? Then I want you to pause the video and I want you to do the APA style practice. What I need you to do is I need you to take the author's last name and year and practice writing it, okay, as if you're doing an in-text citation already. So write a paraphrase in-text citation parenthetical. So it would basically just be text, for example, children need to experience outdoor activities rather than being on tablets. Okay. Now, in a parenthetical way, it would be the author's last name. So it would be Santos, comma, 2023. I do not put the page number because it's not a direct quote. If it was a direct quote, it would be something like, open quote, children should experience outdoor activities more than technology, okay? Close quote, all right? Because that's the quote. Then you open parenthesis, you say Santos, comma, 2023, page number 45, close parenthesis. There you go, all right? Write a narrative in-text citation. That is super easy. You can say, according to Santos, okay, her last name. Now you only put the year, all right? Children need to experience outdoor activities, right? Full stop. There you go. You don't need to put anything else because it's not a direct quote. All right. And then you have to do the APA citation at the end. How would the APA citation look like at the end? It's easy. So we know the last name is Santos. You'll say Santos, comma, M for Miriam, full stop. Open parenthesis 2023, close parenthesis. Now you have to write the title, The Rise of Remote Learning. Okay, full stop. What is the source? Education Today. Okay, page number 45, and then usually there is a URL link that you put in there. And then you're done. Make sure that you always check for spelling by just literally clicking right click on your computer. Then you put this one in parentheses as well. Okay, perfect. So that is the APA citation. And that's what I would need you to know for the next couple of weeks when we are starting to put our essays together. And you most certainly need to know this for Wednesday, because on Wednesday, I'm going to give you a task where you have to actually submit a paragraph, where you have to do an in-text citation, and you have to do a reference list, and that will actually be for grades. So make sure that you review this and know the answers and the methods of how to do it so that you are ready. Okay, now let's move over. So that was the APA citation. Now the next part is Vancouver style. Okay. This is more for our dentistry students. So if you're a dentistry student, you probably need to pay attention. Also, the other students do pay attention because we could be assessing you on this, even though you will not use this for our writing, okay? You will not use this in our class because we are not a medical department, all right? So the Vancouver style, the origins, it comes from Canada. It was established in 1978 in Vancouver, and it was for medical journal editors, okay? And it's so obviously it's used in medicine, biomedical sciences, and health sciences. And the key features that are very different in the Vancouver style is that it's using a numbering system. Yep, and this is the trickiest one. It's the easiest one, but slightly tricky as well. You just need to kind of keep your head together. So sources get a number. So instead of you writing the author's last name and all of those details, you simply put a number. Yeah, 1, 2, 3. And the structure, again, just like APA, you need an in-text citation and you need to have a reference page. Well, the Vancouver style, the tricky part is at the reference page. So let's start looking at it. What do we mean? So we're also going to in-text citation for paraphrasing. So when you paraphrase in-text citation using Vancouver style, all you need to do is put the number. Now, where does the number come from? That is the biggest question. The number comes from the list of sources. So let's say you are doing a journal and you have 5 different sources that you're going to be using. You need to start numbering them. Determine which one will be source 1, source 2, source 3, source 4, okay? And you stick to it. Because what the number that you're putting in the in-text citation needs to correlate with the number in the reference list. So that's where the number comes from. There's no right or wrong. You just need to pick a number and be consistent throughout. That's it. Do not swap the numbers and the sources around. No, it needs to correlate. So coherency is very important here. So how do we do it? Now we're going to look at the parenthetical way of citation. So here's a parenthetical where we say you just state, you put this in parentheses, all right? So in APA, you would usually put here the author's last name plus the year. Here you just put the number, author number 3 or source number 3. Superscript. You will not use this a lot, all right? But superscript is when you put in, again, the number, the same number, and you put it over here. It's a tiny little number over there, and not many of you will use it. In fact, on your computer, it is available, if I'm not mistaken. I'm going to have to look at that because there is a way of doing it, and I will show you, and I don't mind even making another video for it, but I think it's part of your references, if I'm not mistaken, but I don't want to move. But we call this a superscript, okay? It almost acts like a footnote type of thing, all right? And you can see the number over there. Again, that number 3 needs to correlate with source number 3 in your reference list. Now, in a narrative would be something like according to, right? So you'll say, for example, according, or you can say, according to Smith. And that's the only time you will use the last name is when you use it in a narrative. Open parenthesis 4, because he will be source number 4. Okay. Dietary habits affect student focus. There you go. That's it. This is the easiest one. To be honest, the easiest one. The biggest issue is always at the end, okay, when you have the reference list, okay? Now, when you do direct quote, the direct quote is just like APA. When you do a direct quote and there's a page number, you need to include that page number. How do we do direct quote? Open parenthesis, write down the sentence word for word, verbatim from the source, close quote, open parenthesis, number 5, okay, which is source number 5, comma, page number 23, okay? This means this source will be listed as source number 5, all right? In the narrative way, you can say Lee, source 5, argues that the best learning outcome comes from active practice. Open parenthesis, page number, close parenthesis, full stop. All right. So page numbers are required for direct quotes in Vancouver, just like in APA style. All right. Reference list. This is what I was trying to say to you. Now, with the reference list, you saw in the APA style, we never numbered the authors. No, we didn't. You see this number 1? We never numbered it. But in the Vancouver, you need to number. How do you number? According to how you cited it. So if that number is number 3, it needs to be number 3 here. And here you are not worried about alphabetical order. Here you are looking at numeric order. So for number 1 to number 10, how many sources you have? You will find some journals that use up to 100 sources. Yes, and you need to be the one to run around and try to figure out where does number 98 needs to correlate with number 98 in the reference list and in the in-text citation. So similarly to, there's some parts that are similar. So you start off with the last name of the author, then their initial. All right, here we have quite a few authors: Rain, Whites, K, and Goodhart, full stop. Then the name, all right, of the author, or the name of the journal. Then you write the edition of the journal. Sometimes you'll see 10th edition, all right? And the press. Now, the press is the place that is responsible for publishing the book or publishing the journal. The good thing nowadays, all of those journals have that information at the top with the names, the dates, the volumes, the page numbers. All you need to do is just put them in order, all right? And then the date comes at the very end. In APA style, we usually have the date here right after the authors. But in Vancouver, it's at the very end, all right? Here is an example of a journal. A journal here again, you start off with the number. You start off with the number. Make sure that number correlates. Then you have the author's last name, Smith, J, comma, Lee, K, full stop. Then the title of the journal article. Then you have the title of the journal itself. Then the year of publication and the volume and the issue, and then obviously the page numbers. And usually these days, you need to have a URL link as well. Okay. How do you practice this? You practice. And to be honest, I'm not expecting you to always memorize this information. No, this is just information for you to know that you need to do, but you should always look it up online. The problem with these citations is that they update. Sometimes you will hear, for example, right now we're doing the APA 7th edition. So they always update. It's your job to make sure that your reference list is updated to the most recent version that is published. All right. So now, how do we use it in appeal method? How do we use it in the appeal method? So I told you guys before, you have point, which is your topic sentence. It needs to have the main idea and the controlling idea. All right. So the topic is motivation strongly affects learning outcomes. What is the topic? Motivation. All right. What about motivation affect learning outcome? So if a student is motivated, they have their outcome, their output, their progress is affected by that. Okay. Then let's look at evidence. Let's see if the evidence connects to the point. Research shows that students with higher intrinsic motivation engage more deeply with tasks. Does that align with the topic sentence? Yes, it does. Okay. How did we cite it? Look at that. Just with the number 10. That means it's source number 10. Okay. And then you have to explain. This connection implies that simply presenting content is not enough. Teachers must foster motivation to improve engagement and achievement. Is it linked? Yes, it is. Okay. Again, look at my evidence and the explanation. We do not repeat the evidence. We simply expand, make it connect. All right. Then we link. Therefore, educational programs should be designed to build intrinsic motivation and help students perform better. Does it link to the main sentence? Yes, it does. It talks about motivation and students performing better. That is learning outcome. All right. So now where's my reference? If you look here at the very bottom, that is the reference. You can see number 10, Lee K. Roberts, Motivation in Students in Higher Education, London, Academic Press, 2019. That clearly comes from a book, all right? So that is how we will do it, and that's how I expect you to do it. Here is an exercise that I want you to do while you're watching this video. Take a pause and quickly do this practice. By the way, this information is also found in your Writing 100 course reader. If I'm not mistaken, it's a page 110. All right. Both of them are there. Read them with examples so that you can practice this on your own. So just to quickly wrap up, so what did we look at? We looked at the APA style and the Vancouver style citation. We looked at in-text citation, where we have author and year for APA style. For Vancouver style, we have number, quote, format. APA style, author, year, plus page number. Vancouver, number, plus page number, okay? What appears in the text? Author's name plus year, or we just say just a number for the Vancouver. Reference list, alphabetical order, as I said to you in APA style. So if you have an author with the surname Andrews, he comes up first. If you have an author's name with the surname Christopher's or Christian, he comes second. Okay. If you have an author's name with Zimmerman, he comes at the very end because obviously he is at the end. That if you have three sources, they need to be in alphabetical order based on your first author. Okay. Now, Vancouver is order of appearance, numeric. So number one needs to be listed number one. All right. Common fields, APA is in social sciences and education. Vancouver is in medicine, health sciences. All right. Key punctuation. We always use parentheses with APA style, always parentheses. But with Vancouver, you can use parentheses and you can use superscript. It's when the number is very tiny at the corner and it almost acts like a footnote, but it's not. Okay. Right. So those are the key takeaways from this lecture. We know that every citation has to have two parts. It needs in-text citation and a reference list. We use APA, okay, where we have the author and the date. Vancouver uses number, okay, or superscripts. Both styles require page numbers for direct quotes. Reference lists are alphabetical in APA and in order of appearance in Vancouver. Always be consistent. Choose one style and use it throughout your paper. Don't do APA and Vancouver. No. If your paper is scientific and you want to experiment with Vancouver, you start with it and you finish with it, okay? Do not mix and match because that could also fall under plagiarism. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen with you just to wrap up. All right, so I want to share one more thing with you guys, and I hope I get this right. Once you have watched the video, all right, once you have watched the video and you understand and you have practiced it all and you understand everything, then what you do is you click on your Writing 100 Google form and it says there for grades. You click on it, all right? When you click on it, it will pop up like this and you will start answering questions about the PowerPoint slide. What are the questions? I'm going to go through them. It's super easy. It starts off with what is citation? There are multiple choice. All right. Then they look at APA style. There are multiple choice. Some of them you need to read carefully so that you choose the correct answer. Then it goes into Vancouver style. Read carefully. All right. And then at the end, you need to write for me a citation. Okay. I hope that makes it easier where you have to write it in Vancouver reference list. I gave you all the information. You just need to do the reference list. It's worth 15 points, and those points will be added to your grade, all right? Just to make sure that you all are paying attention and that you participate in the class. If you need anything, additional office hours, or you have a question that you're not sure of, or you cannot navigate online, it's okay. Just shoot me an email and I will try to respond to you as soon as possible. Thank you so much, and I will see you guys later. Bye-bye.